What is up, everybody? It is another victory for Alabama, and we're going to be talking about all of it right here at Cover Crimson. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to let everybody start to get in, roll in a little bit, get the comments going, let you guys kind of dictate the conversation. Now I'm going to be talking about a lot of what went on in this game, how Alabama was able to get a very impressive 30-14 victory. I know in the description I put 23, but Alabama was able to add a late touchdown to make it what I think is a more accurate depiction of the way that this game should have gone. Alabama's inability to score in the red area, or at least converts the red area opportunities into touchdowns. We'll be talking about that. That's one of kind of the negatives that they got to get addressed. But I thought that there was a lot of great moments in this game for Alabama. First of all, appreciate everybody for being here. Justin, Marco, William, Bama fan, Roll Tide to all you guys, Jason. Yeah, it was a cover right there at the end. I thought that was obviously not planned, but you love how that worked out. Brock, Kane Womack adjusted. Finally, Thunder, appreciate you being here, brother. Roll Tide to you. And then Pavia looked sick. Yeah, he was not happy with that last touchdown. But if you have any comments, like besides like a comment about the game, something you want, or maybe a question that you want answered, that's what we're here for. That's what we're going to be doing. But while we kind of work our way through some of these things, give you guys a chance to get in your comments, I'm going to start going ahead and talking about the game a little bit. Iceman, Roll Tide. I think the defense isn't attractive, but they're getting the job done. Give Kane Womack in this defense a lot of credit for the second half. Now, I'll have to go back and watch and say, okay, what were the adjustments? There was nothing that was substantial or noticeable necessarily first half to second half. It's just guys started playing a little bit better. I thought it was kind of like Georgia last week. I don't think that Kirby made a whole lot of second half adjustments like people think. I think he made some, and I think some of those were beneficial, but I think more so guys were just doing a better job of executing in the second half. It felt similar. I'll have to go back and watch to actually confirm, but that is at least something you got to give them credit for getting right, because with the way things were going in the first half, and I tweeted this out, whether you talk about the fumble from Pavia, the interception from Ty Simpson, obviously the missed field goal down there in the red area, both offenses, Alabama 4 out of 5 drives in the first half, they had moved the football well. Vanderbilt, 3 of their 4 true drives. Not obviously you don't include that, end of the first half drive, but their true drives, they had moved the ball on 3 out of 4 of those. They had scored 2 touchdowns. The other one was obviously the fumble. So it was actually, while it looked more like a defensive struggle, the offenses were having success in the first half moving the football. What I was probably the most impressed with was Alabama's ability on defense, back-to-back stops to start the second half, where you gave the offense an opportunity. Offense did not do – I guess it did enough as far as moving the ball down the field, getting in field goal range, but just if you could have converted those into touchdowns, this would have been a lot more lopsided than even the score, being 30-14. But at the same time, you got to give them credit, because not only did they get those stops, but they also were able to get a turnover. So good on Keon Sabb for that. Pavia, after all that talking, it was nice to finally see somebody talk trash and pay for it, because at this point it was too many people were starting to get away with it. And Pavia had said some more things this week. Obviously, he was confident. He came in confident, but he had 1 interception. He had 1 fumble. Should have had 2 interceptions had it not been for the penalty, but he just didn't really play that great of a football game. So you have to give Alabama's defense credit, because, he's a scrappy guy, and he's not going to lay down and take anything. But let's see. Let's start working through some of these comments. Roll Tide. Roll Jam Miller. Yeah, Mimi, that is – Jam was fantastic. And really, when you look at like Kevin Riley, 5 carries for 17 yards, averaged 3.4 yards per carry. What I want to point out about that is there was a couple of 5-yard gains that were negated due to holding penalties. And so it was kind of like it's been for him all year, where the stats don't look great, but he was more impressive than the stats would indicate. I thought Kevin Riley played a good game. But when you look at 22 carries for 136 yards and a touchdown, 6.2 yards per carry for Jam Miller, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I was concerned that Alabama, I want to say like a running back, obviously it was either Jam Miller or Kevin Riley. They got a carry with like 10 minutes left in the third quarter, and I don't think they got another carry until Alabama was trying to close things out when they had the 6-point lead. It was like midway through the fourth, or maybe it was a little bit, maybe it wasn't quite midway through the fourth, but they had gone a long period of time without getting any opportunities. And then immediately Alabama started picking up where they had left things early in the game. So that is at least something that we're going to be talking about this week, is why did they get away from it for a while, but also their ability to actually do that. I thought Vanderbilt's defense was gettable on the ground. I really did. I'm pretty sure I said before the game, I feel like that Jam is going to be able to find some success, and he was absolutely able to do that early and when they needed him late. That last, I guess it wasn't the last touchdown drive, but they were able to have big boy Alabama football like we had been hoping and expecting for a while. Love Jam. So good to see him back. Completely agree, Kyle. Jam was great today. Gino at right guard. Matt at center. Matt C at left tackle when the game mattered. I'm trying to, Joshua, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Anyways, yeah, I did think it was interesting. Will Conformby, and I like the idea of playing him in different spots, whether it be, at right guard or right tackle. I just don't like doing it in game so much. Having him flip-flop back and forth, you're used to taking certain pass sets in certain situations, especially. He overset to the outside on that sack, was beaten badly inside, immediately ended Alabama's drive. Right then and there, it was over from the first down. Second down, they didn't do anything. Third down, they punt. Or third down, they don't do anything, and then they punt. That's something where it's like sometimes I feel like that the rotation and the tinkering mid-game when things really matter, it's their confidence in these guys. I understand that, but at the same time, I feel like it's becoming an issue where it's like Dijon Lee early in the game against Florida State. You put a true freshman out there, you've put him in a certain situation on Squirrel White there on the outside, given the coverage and situation, you left him on an island, and he got burned pretty badly, gave up an explosive play, and that really helped get Florida State going. It's like some of that stuff I just think they need to be better about. Let's see, Justin Jefferson, defense, Kimberly, definitely want to give him credit. Let's see. Our player said nothing. Dexter, you're 100% right. Brian, Bama just got to work on the big plays. Any suggestions, Clint? I mean, early in the game, it was lack of run fit once again. That's a problem. And it's a problem that has, I understand that in the second half they played much better. You have to feel good about that. But it's still, you can't be giving up chunk plays like that. The explosives, especially on the ground, where they can, that's how you take the opposing team's will away. I mean, those are just absolute daggers. Defense showed up today, absolutely. Run game was so awesome. I would love to get y'all's comments on, on the depth chart, Daniel Hill, Dre Washington, Richard Young, none of those guys, I don't think any of them were included this week after there was like 4 guys who have been listed as co-starters essentially in games prior. I like the idea of sticking with Jam Miller and Kevin Riley. I think they're your 2 most explosive options. I think your bell cow, your main guy, 22 carries for Jam Miller. That is exactly the type of workload that you want to see him get. Had 5 carries for Kevin Riley. He also had a catch for 10 yards, so he got a total of 6 touches. Maybe see him a little bit more, but when Jam's doing what Jam was doing, you kind of ride that and roll with it. But how is everybody liking this 1-2 punch at running back? Hans says Mizzou might run for 300 if our run defense played the way it did in the first quarter, but Kane made hella adjustments and it paid dividends. Once again, I have to go back and see, does anybody have specific things, or have they seen somebody that's mentioned specific things that Kane adjusted to? Because it felt like they were doing a lot of the same things. Now, here's what I'll say. Last year when they played Vanderbilt, it was pretty much a standard 4-2-5 defense. Maybe, a slight adjustment here or there given the situation, but they were going against run-heavy looks, multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, sometimes up to 3 running backs, like that triple option, formational looks and things like that. And Alabama was just very vanilla defensively, whether it was what they called or really the personnel that they had on the field. I have said continuously, it felt like Alabama went into that game thinking we're going to be able to kind of stay in our base, do what we do. Vanderbilt's not going to be great, and we're going to be able to have success. Well, today it was a lot different. You saw some 3-4 looks with Justin Hill and Yanze Pierre both out there at outside linebacker. You saw some of those 4-2-5 looks where you had 2 bandits on the field. We saw quite a bit of Jordan Renaud opposite LT Overton. You saw the dime look. So they continued to show multiple fronts, continue to show multiple personnel packages. And I thought that was very beneficial as far as Vanderbilt and what they were trying to do offensively. As far as countering the personnel first, put yourself in a position where you can stop certain things. And then if they want to play off of that, you just got to go out there and play football. But I thought they were putting themselves at such a disadvantage unnecessarily last year. Give them credit. Obviously, I think they took Vanderbilt a lot more seriously this year. And I certainly think that ended up paying off, despite the fact that in the first half, it really didn't feel that way. Because even though Vanderbilt only scored 14 points, it felt like this is like the second week in a row where, at least in the first half, maybe not in the second half, maybe I'm getting carried away, but it just felt like that the opposing offense was more in control than the score or the stats would indicate. And that was because Diego Pavia went down there and fumbled the football. If that doesn't happen, they go up potentially 14 points. They kick a field goal, potentially 10-point deficit. Kind of starts looking a lot more similar to last year. And in the first half, they were, I think, 3 of 5 on third downs. So last year they converted 66% of their third down conversions. And this year, in the first half, they were 3 for 5. Now they finished 5 of 11. So that means they went 2 for 6 in the second half. So that was a lot more doable, a lot more manageable for Alabama's defense. And once again, I think that is a big storyline. There's 2 storylines that I thought that this way could go. If Alabama ended up losing this game, the storyline would have been Alabama's offense's inability to score touchdowns or even convert points when they got down there near the red area. I mean, you had a missed field goal, you had the interception, you had 2 field goals, maybe 3, at least 2 that I know of, down there in the red area, sometimes red zone, sometimes, Vanderbilt 30-yard line. Anytime they got in there, it was like the play calling would screw up. I thought Ty Simpson, while he looked fantastic, I thought he was kind of up and down a little bit as far as down there in the red area. I thought some of the decision-making was poor. You don't want him you don't want to take that playmaking element out of his game. You don't want to do that. That is something that makes him one of these special quarterbacks in all of college football. But at the same time, he's got to understand it was kind of like with Tua, and Tua would hang on to the ball too long, trying to make things happen. It ultimately ended up derailing Tua's career in a lot of ways. But with Ty, he's got to be able to understand, if I take a sack here, it automatically kills this drive. Like, as much as effective as we are, when you're putting yourself in second 20s, that's not going to be the way that's going to help you win football games. Let's see. Donald Andrews, he asked Clint, do you think Bama did the same thing defensively last year against OU as they did Vandy? It seems like it. would not. I would have to go back and watch Oklahoma. And could you be a little bit more specific on what you're saying? Are you saying like personnel packages? Are you saying the way that the game flowed? Like, I would actually say, based off of the way that the game flowed, they didn't give up a lot of points to Oklahoma last year, but it did feel like that Oklahoma was a lot more in control in that game. Obviously, there were some things that Alabama did offensively to aid that, but I don't know. I would need probably more clarity. Would a great team win? Cue the complainers. They'll always be there. Yeah, I mean, there are some things. What you got to understand is this is a great win. And what's great about it is, I mean, it's a 16-point win over the number 16 team in the country. It's a team that beat you last year, and they had a lot of confidence and swagger coming into this game. And it was a tough matchup for Alabama. Like, we knew that Vanderbilt's offense going against Alabama's defense, we knew that that was going to be extremely tough. But I do feel confident in the way that they kind of started to play better. They started to play more disciplined football after a really rocky start. And, you know, I think that while you don't want it to be all good, because I still think that there's things that you can take away from this game. But I think one of the biggest things is Georgia last week, massive emotional win on the road. I know that Alabama benefited from the fact that this was another top 16 opponent. And it was after what Vandy did to them last year, you knew they were going to be a lot more prepared. But give them credit, because that was something last year that we probably didn't see enough, was their ability to respond after success. And so this was the first box checked. Obviously, you got to continue that, because once again, now you've beaten 2 back-to-back top 16 opponents, and people are really singing your praises now. Probably going to be viewed as the top or one of the top teams in the country based off how others are playing today. And you've got to be careful, because the schedule doesn't get any easier. But that is at least something where at least we're getting to this point now where we can say Alabama is starting to string some things together. They faced adversity for multiple reasons on the road in Athens, at home, going against that offense and the way that they started. And they have been responding to adversity a lot better than they did a year ago. And I think that is very, very important. So let's see. So by the way, for the future, we are going to have a call-in show, and I'm still learning how to do all this stuff on my own. We're going to get the equipment needed and the software and everything where you guys can call in. I hate that you guys can't call in, because I would love to be able to pass. I'm not somebody that gets on here and talks for 30, 45 minutes, an hour at a time without having anybody else on here. It's an adjustment. We're making it work, but just work with me a little bit. Appreciate the patience. Let's see. Jones, I appreciate the super chat. Clint, they didn't score touchdowns, but I think that's 2 weeks in a row where the offense's ability to move the football and control the clock was the difference. Jones, that is a phenomenal point. A phenomenal point, because the fact that Alabama, when they need to, they can control things on offense. They can control pacing. Like in the second half, or really, first of all, the fact that they were able to score as quickly as they did at the end of the first half, once again, they were able to extend last week with that. And this week they were able to close the gap where Vanderbilt didn't have that sandwiched series where you get at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half, can stack 2 drives back to back and really start to put pressure on the opposing team. The fact that Alabama's offense had the ability to go down there and quickly score, critical. I mean, just that keeps everything open for you as far as the mentality and being able to battle. The defense goes out there to start the second half. They get a 3 and out. But if you go down 7 points and there's this pressure where it's like, we have to get a stop here, because if we don't, they can go down the field. If they do go down the field and score, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown, we're down multiple scores now. And now the pressure's on, just like it was last year. That was absolutely huge. But I mean, the defense, when they needed time to kind of collect themselves, the offense was able to go on really long drives, have a lot of success, string together, whether it be, I still think they're getting too pass happy, and then they'll get too run heavy, and then they'll get too pass happy. Like, there needs to be more balance, in my opinion. But I do really like this offense's ability to do that when it needs to, because I think that not only is that already benefited them, it's going to continue to benefit them moving forward. So appreciate the super chat there. Let's see. So Joey Williams. So am I the only one that thinks Damani isn't physical enough? This is obviously a question that we all had after last week's game. I thought he took bad angles. I thought he wasn't really aggressive as far as what Kane Womack teaches, closing the space with the offensive player as quickly as possible. You didn't see the aggressiveness that he needed to have really at all in the last game. And then today, I still think there are some issues there. Now, granted, me watching it on TV, I'm going to have to go back and watch the all 22. We're going to reach a point where when we have somebody else in here that can kind of start the post-game show, I can be at the game. I'll be able to get back in the press box and be able to actually see things. Like I'm working limited, so I'll need the all 22 to actually see how some of this stuff looked. But, that is something that at least on TV, watching it live, there were a couple of moments where it's like, hey, be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more physical. There was that key, what was either third down, where Yanze Pierre almost gets the stop, and then Damani comes in and cleans it up on Pavia. That was big. But I can't say enough about this team and their ability to respond every step of the way. We've had questions every step of the way, and that could be in the middle of a game or it can be between games. Like it's, okay, you lose to Florida State in that fashion. Can you respond? And then you respond. And then it's like, okay, well, now you got a Power 4 opponent. Can you continue to respond? They respond to that. They answer the call there. Then it's like, okay, that's good, great, and wonderful. But can you go to Athens, Georgia, and compete with a top 5 team in a very hostile environment? And then they answer that. And it's like, okay, great. Well, now can you handle a top 15, 16 Vanderbilt squad coming in who beat you last year, who's coming in really confident, and can you respond to success? That's, once again, it's another box checked. So obviously things are going to continue. We're going to continue to have our questions, because when it looks like it did against FSU, and the fact that it looked like it did against Oklahoma last year and Michigan and Vanderbilt, obviously you're going to continue to have questions, but they've been answering the call as much as they possibly can. And I think that has been really, really encouraging. Let's see. So, yeah, Kadyn Thunder. Kadyn has been, what I love is that they mentioned the fact that he has dropped weight throughout the course of this season. Like last year, he played overweight. He played overweight for the entire season, and then he had off-season surgery that limited him throughout the spring. He was listed. I think he went from 360 to 369 on the latest or 366 on the latest roster update. That created a lot of concern, including from me. But we act like this stuff is final. Now, there's only so much weight that you can lose in season, but from everything that we've heard, he has been working extremely hard to do that. And he has dropped some weight. I think he is south of 360 now. He's moving a little bit better. Obviously, being 359 or 357 or whatever it is, that's still heavy. So is it going to all get fixed? Not necessarily, but I do think he's doing a pretty good job of, continuing to work through some of that stuff in the play. I think he's being rewarded for some of that, because at this point, Alabama desperately needs him to be an All-American caliber player. Getting the catch/carry last week and then getting the true carry this week for a first down, I think that's phenomenal, and give those guys a lot of credit for creating those opportunities for him. I think that fires the team up, and I definitely think that it's something. I don't know how much more they'll do with that with him, but at this point, everything that he's doing is working. So that's been fun. What do you guys think about the rest of the offensive line, though? Because obviously, you're trying a lot of different guys. I think Mike Carroll, I just think at some point they're going to make that move. I don't know what that means for Wilkin Formby. I think they're trying him at guard because they really would like for him to be in the starting lineup. They don't want Michael Carroll's success and the fact that he's kind of forcing his way onto the field move a guy that they really like in Wilkin Formby to the bench. So they're saying, okay, if Big Mike Carroll is just a clearly better option at right tackle, what can Wilkin do? Like, can he compete at guard? And then they try him out there, and apparently he's done some good things. They wouldn't be having him continuously play there if he hadn't. But at the same time, it is I think there's some growing pains there that I would rather see him. I would rather him figure that out in practice rather than in live game situations, because that can end up getting you beat. So Cody Stevens with a super chat. We appreciate you, brother. Was the offensive play calling very conservative at a lot of points in the game? Cody, I do think that I thought it would get too pass heavy for a while, and then it would get too run heavy for a while. Like, it was very back and forth. Like, I never felt like there was this great flow. I mean, maybe at certain moments, but not for any sort of extended period of time. And that's what's probably the most concerning for me, as far as, I understand it's based off of what the defense is giving you. I understand Ty Simpson has some freedom in this offense. He can make checks at the line of scrimmage. So what people's got to understand is when it's getting way down there in the play clock, a lot of times that's probably not Ryan Grubb's play. That is Ty Simpson seeing something, making a check, and then everybody is over here freaking out on Ryan Grubb and saying, oh, it's a terrible play call. Was it Ryan Grubb that called it, or was it Ty Simpson? I think Todd, just the fact that he has that trust, I don't understand why he's not being talked about more as far as the NFL draft. Like, and like I saw a list earlier of the top 10 quarterbacks right now for the 2026 NFL draft, and he wasn't included on it. And Dante Moore was. And I think Dante Moore is playing really good football. From an NFL draft standpoint, I'll go ahead and tell you, Ty Simpson is way more prepared to step to the next level and have success than Dante Moore. I promise you that. Now, Moore long-term might end up being a better player, but I mean, Ty Simpson, he deserves his flowers when it comes to the NFL draft, because he is doing some things. He has earned this coaching staff's trust where they allow him to make adjustments. In a lot of situations, he will take unnecessary sacks and try to do too much. But I think when it comes to being able to put himself in a position to be successful with the protection, with the play call, understanding the situation, I mean, he is almost like an extra coach. And that is just being a coach's son. That is him being a really experienced guy as far as multiple years in college, sitting behind the scenes, learning the nuances of playing the position at a high level, learning the nuances of the offense. I do think that, he has made tremendous growth over the course of, the Florida State game to now. And I mean, this is what I find interesting is all the excitement that certain guys were building throughout the offseason, like Ty Simpson. We were hearing great things about him, taking what the defense gives him, being able to manage the game, being able to understand the pictures that are being presented and where he wants to go with the football, throwing with accuracy, allowing his playmakers to make plays after the catch, doing all those things. A guy like Jam Miller, you understand the impact that he has had on Alabama's run game. I thought that was evident last week against Georgia, despite the fact that the stats didn't necessarily reflect it. This was a lot more of an accurate representation where he gets 22 carries, also has one catch for a total of 23 touches. And he was Alabama's first 100-yard rushing running back since he did it against USF in week 2 of last season. So I think that right now he has been a godsend for this offense, providing more of a complementary element. And I like I said, I think Vanderbilt was gettable on the ground more so than a lot of people realized going in. But if they can just get any sort of consistency with this current lineup and running back duo of Jam Miller handling a lion's share of the workload and Kevin Riley being a guy who is that change of pace complementary guy, I think that this offense is going to be lethal. But for the second week in a row, that hadn't led to substantial points. Like, I thought last week they moved the football extremely well against Georgia, but they didn't put up a lot of points. This week, you had the late touchdown, which certainly helped. But before that, it was 23 points. So while you felt good about the offense and its ability to move the football, they're not converting this into touchdowns enough. So while I'm really encouraged about the offense and the direction that it's heading, they got to be able to finish a little bit better than they have up to this point. All right, let's see. I think Ty's going to be a good offensive coordinator someday. Thundar, yeah, once again, 100% correct. He's got everything that you want between the ears, and knowing, um, having that type of player on the field, when you match that with an offensive coordinator or an offensive mind like Ryan Grubb, it becomes extremely lethal, because there's also that communication part of things with the headsets. Obviously, it cuts off at a certain point before the snap, but you've got Ty Simpson seeing a lot. You've got Ryan Grubb in his ear telling him a lot. And so between the two of them, they're just, and granted, at a certain point, Ty Simpson's got to take all that over. But at the same time, I think that has been really beneficial for Ty Simpson. He's definitely going to end up being a very, very good player, or a very, very good coach one of these days, hopefully after a long, successful career, though. Let's see. Jones, we had a Kelby Collins sighting today, and he played well in the first half. I was encouraged by that, too. I thought the defensive front, now a lot of people, they're going to attribute the turnaround to James Smith getting back on the field in the second half. First of all, I don't really think that that's the case. I thought that he did well. James Smith did well. He wasn't like a game wrecker, in my opinion, though. I just think it was everybody else really starting to get comfortable. They were putting Diego Pavia in more uncomfortable situations, and he just didn't have that magic like he had last year, mostly because he was playing with a lead the entire game. I mean, granted, they did start off with a lead today, but Alabama closed that gap quickly, and once they did, they really never looked back. But Kelby Collins, I did think situationally, he was playing a lot more aggressively. I think not timidness, that's probably the wrong word. He just needs to, 100 miles an hour all the time. Like don't be, not soft. That's not the word I'm looking for either. But I just think that he's still got a lot from a work ethic standpoint that he needs to continue to consistently put forward. But as he does that, I think that he's got tremendous talent, and I do think he can help this defensive line. London Simmons, Kelby Collins, and Edric Hill balled out. Now, Edric Hill on that touchdown run from Cedric Alexander, they ran duo, and he got washed. And being 284 pounds, you're playing, what was it, a 4 tech? I think he was head up to tackle, maybe he was playing a 4 on the inside shoulder, but I mean, he got completely dug out of there, which, I mean, you're 284 pounds, you're going against a double team, and Vanderbilt does have a little bit more pop and physicality with their offensive line than they did a season ago. But I mean, the displacement that they have with him, obviously the secondary, I think Greg McElroy brought it up. The run fits weren't where they needed to be. I think it was more so when your end gets completely dug out like that, almost immediately 5 yards backwards, that presents the lanes for the running back to choose. And I think there was 2 technically, and whichever one the defensive back left open was the one that Cedric Alexander was going to hit. So, I definitely think that ended up playing a massive part. But otherwise, I thought Edric Hill played well. London Simmons, he's not playing like a true freshman. And granted, once again, all these things that I say, I got to go follow it up and make sure that what I saw live is what I see on tape when I go and watch the All 22 and kind of slow things down. But just London Simmons from a gap responsibility standpoint, I think he's very technically sound. I think that's really helped him get on the field. I think he's got more physical ability than a lot of people realized coming out of high school. And I think he's really put together. He's put his head down and went to work. That's one thing that I've heard about this guy behind the scenes, is that his work ethic is fantastic. And things click for him pretty quickly. Like, he's a guy that takes to coaching really well. He takes what you give him and he can apply it. And that's not always easy for players to do. Sometimes it takes quite a while. And with London Simmons, that was one of the things that helped him get on the field early. And he has been a massive, important piece for Alabama's rotation. Now that you got Tim Keenan back and he's getting more and more healthy each and every week, that certainly helps as far as the top of your depth chart. But then having a guy like London Simmons as a rotational piece, I think that's pretty important. And Kelby Collins and Edric Hill filling out that defensive tackle depth behind James Smith, that is also very important. Let's see. Appreciate you being here, Dexter. It was a great win. Roll Tide to you too, my friend. Let's see. Any more? Does anybody have any questions? I could have missed something. I'm trying to like talk, go 100 miles an hour. I would just love to be able to have you guys call in, let you guys talk for 2, 3, 4 minutes, let me react. But at the same time, we're working through that, and that is something that's going to get fixed. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this up to this point, just me rambling nonstop. I can talk, I can be long-winded with my responses, but I love having that person that I can go on my spiel, kind of pitch it to them, let them handle talking, and then I collect my thoughts. So I've just been going 100 miles an hour. I'm sure I'll get used to this, but at the same time, we will be getting somebody in here at some point to help me out with the post game and have a conversation. And also, we'll be taking y'all's calls as well. So I appreciate you guys being here, sticking with us. It's been kind of a transition period, but it is something that, we're going to continue to get perfected because we love you guys. Seth with the super chat, I did miss that. I apologize, but we got you right now, brother. One thing going unnoticed, a ton of massive recruits got to watch this tonight in person. I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, Alabama has done extremely well. You would like to see them continue. Like, can they maintain this class? Because if they can, it's once again the recruiting box that Kalen DeBoer needed to check. Everybody questioned, could you do it in state? Can you do it in the South? He's responded really well. Now they're over here watching Alabama start to string some things together. And like Xavier Crowell, first of all, what he did last night, I don't know if people have seen some of those highlights, but that cat is incredible. I mean, he is such a special talent that is going to be incredibly special in this Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb offense in the future. But it was nice for him to be able to see, hey, Alabama can get this run game going. Like, and granted, I think just a talent like that, I'm sure he's confident that was going to get fixed regardless. But being able to see it, I think was really important for him. I think it was really important for Alabama. And it wasn't just, him. It was a lot of these guys who have seen Alabama. A lot of the questions that we have had, they've been answering the call on a lot of them. I think that that's pretty important too. Thank you so much, Austin. I appreciate you guys too. More than y'all could ever know. Seth, him and Jet are insane. Yeah, Jet is – I wonder what's going to happen with him in the recruiting rankings, because he's a guy who I feel like just continues to get better. There was some rawness to his game, but just the natural ability that he brings to the table. I mean, that he's exactly the type of guy that you wanted in this class following landing a player like Keelan Russell. Because Russell is probably the future, but at the same time, a guy like Tamala, I mean, he's going to be a guy who is always around, always pushing, and in the future, he could end up being a star himself. There's no doubt about it. Ryan asked, did y'all see Ty talking to Ryan after the third down drop pass? Well, first of all, I think he was going to be short anyways, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, it was, once again, another drop. Like, he's had one every game that he's played in. And that was one where if I go back and see that he would have had the first down had he called it, I think that's a much bigger deal. But, yeah, I mean, Ty, one thing about Ty is the leadership that he has shown as far as being willing to hold others accountable and willing to hold himself accountable, I think has been big. It's been massive for this locker room because everybody knows how much effort he puts into it. He has certain expectations for himself and demands of himself, but he also has expectations and demands of others. And so it doesn't matter, Ty and Ryan, they're best friends. I didn't see him talking to him. I mean, maybe he was encouraging him. Maybe he was getting on to him. Either way, I think Ty's kind of got that coach's feel for, he knows when to do either. And I think that's beneficial as well. Let's see. The Moon, London Simmons, and James Smith. I really like where this Alabama defensive front is going. I think your two headline starters with Tim Keenan and James Smith, they have top-tier all-SEC talent. But now the depth is starting to get figured out. And if you would have told me before the season, Jeremiah Beeman's going down with a season-ending injury, and they were going to be without him for pretty much the entire season, I would have been massively concerned with this group because I really thought that it was Jeremiah Beaman, Edric Hill, and then those top two guys. And I had no idea where they turned to as far as that fifth interior defensive lineman. If you would have told me that Jeremiah Beaman was going down and Kelby Collins was, for the most part, going to be a non-factor through the first roughly 4 or 5 games, today he started to make a much bigger impact. But through at least the first 4 games, I would have been very, very concerned. And granted, I think the results somewhat reflect that, but I don't think it's been the defensive line, to be honest. Granted, I did say that about Edric Hill, but overall, I feel like that Alabama's defensive line is actually playing pretty good football. Like if you look at the individual pieces, they're getting effective play out of a lot of those guys, and they continuously get better. Like obviously, you know what you're getting in Tim Keenan and James Smith, the guys like London Simmons, Edric Hill, Kelby Collins is starting to come on. I think that not only are they building a good rotation, but they're building up some depth where you can stay fresh in some of these games, and that can be certainly beneficial. Andromeda with a super chat. Appreciate you. Our red zone offense needs to improve. Yeah, and I would say, red zone, red area, I think once you get down there within like the 30-yard line, you're in a position where it's like you're either going to be held to a field goal, but you're at least in field goal range, or you can score a touchdown. And I think once they get down into the red area, they had massive problems today. And it was numerous things. I thought Ryan Grubb at times got too cute, unless some of that was Ty Simpson. Once again, think some of it was Ryan Grubb, but maybe Ty Simpson has a lot of flexibility and leash as far as being able to make some of these calls or checks on his own. Maybe some of that falls on him, but then his own decision making, taking some unnecessary sacks. That was the first time that it happened. It's like, okay, you don't want to coach that out of him, and you take the bad with the good. Then it happened again. It was a lot more consequential the second time, and so yeah, it's at a certain point, it's like, okay, this can be a mistake that you make every once in a while. This can't become a common thing. And I thought today it did start to become a little bit more of a common thing. Seth King says, I have noticed Ryan is still catching with his body. Hopefully his confidence comes back soon with his hands. Yeah, I thought that was interesting, Seth, because even the long catch that he had down the sidelines, which almost felt like he was going to make one of those moves like he did against Wisconsin and Georgia. Like, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but just the movement, the suddenness to stop. I was like, oh, he's about to do it again. But yes, he did catch with his body. He's kind of always been a body catcher to an extent, but at the same time, he's a playmaker. And look at the target share. Once again, like you had Ryan Williams leading the team with 7 targets. So everybody wants to talk about, he's these drops, you need to phase him out of the offense or send him to the bench or do whatever. He led the team in targets. Now, granted, Jeremy had 5, Isaiah Horton had 6, Josh Cuevas had 6. I thought he played a really good game. But Williams isn't going anywhere. 6 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. When you look at his game log, I mean, I probably won't pull it up, but I mean, he's been putting up some pretty good numbers, especially relative to a season ago where he had a really hot start to the season, and then from a production standpoint, pretty much fell off a cliff. He's been productive despite the drops. Like you think about last week against Georgia, he brings in that touchdown, and yet again, he's pushing for close to 100 yards receiving. You hate the drop, but at the same time, you're still getting 6 catches for 98 yards. Jeremy Bernard, 5 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Horton, 4 catches for 66 yards. Now, he did have a drop as well. But, even guys like Rico Scott bringing down some tough catches. And this is what I say, like, the fact that you can work to a guy like Rico and he can make some big boy catches, some really tough catches over the middle of the field, physical, fell hard, maintain control of the football. The fact that you can get that kind of play from what I would call your 5th receiver, it just shows how deep this group is. And it's such a tough mismatch problem for opposing defenses because you got different body types. You got the dynamic playmakers after the catch, but they all can do a little bit of all of it. Like Ryan Williams is, he's actually pretty good as far as going up and getting acrobatic catches. Like Jeremy Bernard, he plays physical. He can uncover underneath. He's a good route runner. but he can create yardage after the catch. Like, he can do a lot of different things for you, and he can win vertically as well. It's a tough offense to defend. It really is. And I think the combination of the quarterback, all the receivers, the fact that Jam's coming on pretty strong, you've got the play caller in Ryan Grubb, and you've got an offensive line that's starting to figure some things out, still going through some growing pains, but they were able to get a pretty consistent push today. I thought that was very, very beneficial. And guys, no, Mick is not affiliated with the channel anymore. He has decided to focus on his own Alabama channel, the Bama Tailgate Show, and he's always been a huge fan of the Next Round, and so he's doing some stuff for them. We hate it. We love Mick to death. I love him to death. He's a great guy, but we're kind of moving on and kind of, like I said, we got some things in the works. Think EG's doing fantastic stuff right now. Jimmy, hopefully everybody's enjoying that. We're kind of spreading out some of the stuff that he does. Instead of doing a 1-hour show twice a week, I'm like, well, I mean, we normally go 30 minutes. So I'll just start splitting up some of these into a couple of shows, and that way we can give people more content. Hope people are enjoying that. And I will also be doing a lot of more stuff answering mailbag questions. I've even thought about doing a mailbag question every day and just taking 5-10 minutes, maybe answer one or two. If people enjoy that, I'll probably start throwing that in there as well. What I want to do is any content that you want addressed. You got a question, let us know, and that can come at any time. We'll probably give you guys the option. Like, there's apparently this phone line that we can set up that you can call and leave a voicemail. What we're thinking about doing is allowing you to call in, leave a voicemail with a question or a comment. We play that on air, and then I address it kind of like you're calling in. We're also going to have a call-in show, don't get me wrong, especially live post-game. But this will give everybody the ability to, ask a question, get as detailed as you want, maybe give some comments, go deeper into it if you want to, and then we can address it. I think that'll be fun as well. So where was LT Overton today? I mean, I don't think he did anything outstanding, but we had heard going into this game that you are probably going to see a little bit more Jordan Renaud. And I thought, okay, that's because of the Wolf and the fact that you've got some injuries there to your top two guys. And I do think that that's the case. They're figuring out creative ways to get Renaud and Overton on the field together. But I also think it's Renaud's just doing some good things in practice. So they like what he's providing. It hadn't really translated to stats for him yet, but I think he's been pretty good. Justin Jefferson, 14 tackles, 9 solos, had a sack, had the forced fumble, which was huge. I think that forced fumble was probably the play of the game, because at that point, if Alabama goes down 10 or goes down 14, I think it would have been not good. It would have felt a lot like last year. But Jordan Jefferson made a fantastic play. And, he had 14 tackles. The next highest was Deontay Lawson with 4. So we had 10 more tackles than everybody else on the team, like than second place. That's pretty wild. Let's see. Sorry, I'm working through some comments. Latsier Brooks had a better catch against Georgia, and he got hit harder and still secured the catch. Latsier, especially, he had one catch for 30 yards today. The guy just continuously, his ability to break tackles, and he plays with a swagger that a lot of receivers just simply don't have. It's this confidence where he's not running his mouth. From everything that I know about him, he's not a diva in any sort of way. He blocks when he's asked to block. He understands the offense. He understands his role within the offense. And they are just, slow. They're bringing him along. And I think as time passes, obviously you got 3 really good receivers there at the top. So there's no need in forcing Latsier into a bigger role. Let it come naturally and organically. But he's kind of taking his opportunities, and he's saying, keep feeding me, keep getting me on the field. I'm going to make plays for you every time you do. This wide receiver room is really good. Really, really good. Big Frank, I love Jimmy. I love Jimmy too. And what I love about Jimmy, I love how we feed off of each other. And there are probably, if I had somebody here and we were going back and forth, they'd probably say something that triggered something in my mind, a point that I remember from the game. And I could just, that's how I've always worked. But, Jimmy, I think, is one of the absolute best in the business, and we are so fortunate and so appreciative to have him here. Loved EG with Josh Pate. I did too. EG and Friends is going to be a fantastic part of this channel. She's got a lot of connections, a lot of big time people in this industry, and I think she asks great questions and pulls the right things out of the right people, where you guys get really good content. Thank you so much, Frank. I appreciate you. One of the things that got me into this was just I loved talking ball. I just always wanted people to understand, if you wanted to complain about something, I wanted to try to guide people on what to complain about, because I think this is already probably one of the most informed fan bases as far as understanding the game. I think Nick Saban brought it the best in everybody. The media covering it, the fans, there was just this level of interest and not just wanting to watch the games, but understand the games. And I just wanted to try to jump in on that and have those types of conversations with you guys. I absolutely love that. And so I hope you guys do too. Let's see. Mimi, I don't think LT gets enough credit for his play. Once again, I would agree with that as well. He does a lot of things that go unnoticed, but I think he's a good combination of, he creates opportunities for others. He does a pretty good job of when a play needs to be made. A lot of times he'll step up and make it, whether it's, maybe sometimes he didn't always finish, but he's always in a position to make a play. And, that I think is really important. But like last week against Georgia, he didn't make that play down there on the goal line. Georgia very well could win that football game. In my opinion, they definitely would have taken a lead. And then it just would have depended on what Alabama did from that point. But, LT Overton is a very, very good football player, and he does a lot of different things. He wears a lot of different hats. He plays out on the edge. He can kick inside. His versatility is valuable. His impact is valuable. I don't know much about him from a leadership standpoint. He's obviously not a team captain. I've just never really had those types of conversations with people behind the scenes, so I couldn't say one way or another, but I'm sure he's great in that area as well. But he definitely is a guy who makes an impact on the field. There's no doubt about it. Lottie needs to get 3 to 4 touches a game. I don't disagree, Luke. It's just at whose expense, because I like the fact that, Horton and Bernard and Williams, they're all getting 5, 6, 7 targets. Last week, they were all getting 8 or 9. This week, you got Josh Cuevas involved in 3 catches for 35 yards, had 6 targets, had yards after the catch. Cuevas was good. I mean, the hurdling the defender, obviously that's going to get a lot of attention. I loved when players did that when I played, because you're very vulnerable in those situations. And I thought, this is where you messed up. But he timed it well, and he is able to avoid big hits in a lot of those instances. So, I mean, while I do love Lottie, and I think that he could handle however much they gave him. If they decided to make him the focal point of the offense tomorrow and give him 12 touches a game, 10 or 12 touches, I think he would be phenomenal in that role. I think he's ready, or he's very close to being ready. Alabama just doesn't have to have that from him. And I think the offense is a lot more effective when you don't ask that of him, because you've got so many different options, and he can just be that kind of complementary piece that comes in, and defenses are kind of sleeping on him a little bit because Ryan's making plays and Isaiah's making plays and Jeremy, and then he pops somebody. I think that the guy he has a knack for that, and he's only going to continue to get better. For being a true freshman, this is exactly what you want from him. So I really, really appreciate everything that he's been providing. Tino asked, did Will Sanders get any plays today? Yes, he did. I noticed, and then, it was weird because I want to say against Georgia, a lot of times when he was coming in, they were also bringing in Mike Carroll and then moving Wilkin Formby inside. Today, I thought he was getting more independent snaps, meaning they were leaving Formby at right tackle, they were leaving Geno Vandermark at right guard, and they were bringing in just Will Sanders to get snaps at left guard. And I wanted to see that. And the reason for that is I wanted to see, based off of just making the Will Sanders change, how was that affecting the offensive line? Because you had a right tackle that was moving inside the guard. So it's like that's going to affect things. And then you bring in Mike Carroll. I just wanted to see the Will Sanders effect. And I thought he played pretty well. I don't think he played perfect. There were 1 or 2 snaps in particular that are standing out, and I'll try to break those down later this week. But I do think that he's moving in the right direction, and he's certainly going to help this football team, no doubt about it. E Branch says Dijon Lee played well today and seems to be getting more and more confident. He battles at the catch point. You saw that today. Perfect representation of everything that I'd heard about this guy. First of all, what you had seen from him in high school, but then what had been translating to the practice field. And anytime that I talked to somebody behind the scenes, they were like, this guy battles at the catch point. He just makes it so difficult. There's a lot of times where it looks like a guy's about to catch a football, and he just gets in there and battles and prevents it. You saw that today. When that ball was thrown, I'm like, that's a touchdown. Like, he's probably going to catch that back shoulder. And Dijon didn't give up, extremely long, got that long arm in there and battled at the catch point and prevented the receiver from making a touchdown catch. Love what he's doing. I think he's physical. He's kind of a freshman who's still learning. Like, you're going to see some growing pains with him. I don't think he's like the equivalent of like Lottie, where I'm not seeing a whole lot of mistakes from Lottie. Maybe I'm not noticing certain things, but he just seems to be a guy, like, I think tomorrow, like I said, if they wanted to make him the focal point tomorrow, I think he would handle that role extremely well. If they decided to make Dijon Lee cornerback 1 tomorrow, I don't know. I think there would be a lot more ups and downs, but he's certainly progressing, and just the physical ability is certainly up there. Gelato, appreciate the super chat. Another undefeated team, bite the dust, roll Tide. That is a good point. And this one has to feel good if you're an Alabama fan, because after what happened last year, the way that this Georgia game kind of played out, and the fact that, a lot of people were questioning. I mean, Vegas, obviously Alabama ended up covering, but I thought that the Vegas line was interesting. And I brought this up on Twitter. The fact that you had such a massive percentage of the money being bet on Vanderbilt, and I say massive, like it was saying north of 90%, and then even jumped up to 97%. Now, I understand those numbers might not be accurate, but the fact that it was even showing that lopsided, and the line was actually moving higher for Alabama, like it went from 10.5 to 11.5. I thought that was really weird. I think that Vegas, while it didn't play out how we all thought that it was going to, Alabama started getting stops, and Alabama's offense was moving the football consistently, very consistently. I don't think anybody foresaw the struggles in the red area. I think that's why the score wasn't a lot more lopsided. But I think Alabama was just a much, much better team than Vanderbilt. Much better, which is why I'm kind of glad that they scored that late touchdown, because I think this score more accurately reflects just how dominant Alabama was. If it would have been 23-14, like a lot of people would have said, it's a good win. It's the number 16 team in the country. But the fact that they're able to continue to do what they're doing has been pretty impressive. Yeah, on Target Firearms Instruction says you need to get EG on postgame. I agree. I think she would be perfect for it. Now, she is at the games, and she's got to do a lot. Like, that's one of the things before Mick would go ahead and hop on the postgame and start taking phone calls. And I'm at the game. I've got to get in a position where I can hop on. But as far as running things and taking phone calls, that's why I didn't go to the game today, just because I knew I would need to hop on here and actually run it from the time that the game ended. That kind of altered things for me, but EG is at the games, so that would be difficult for her. She could probably hop on for 10 to 15 minutes, and we probably will start doing that a little bit. But for at least now, I'm kind of running solo. I appreciate other comments, though. The fact that you guys have been so engaging with this and leaving the comments, I've missed 1,000 things, I'm sure. Super Chat makes it easier. I'm not trying to force anybody to send money or anything, but it does bring it up differently, where I can actually pull it up and make sure that I get to those comments. So if you get another person in here, will you return to the games, or are you focused on being here and hosting? What I would like to do is be able to host from somewhere down there. I would need to find somewhere that I could go. Maybe it's, even if it's a little bit loud, if we can make it manageable where you guys can hear, kind of like, um, some people will do like watch parties and stuff during the game at like a bar or something. And yeah, it's pretty rowdy and loud, but you definitely can make it work. If I could find somewhere down there where I could go to the game, because it was a huge bummer to not be able to see everything. Like when I'm in the press box, I can see what coverages they're in. I can see what's happening on the back end. I could tell you a lot more when I hop on the post game. It's unfortunate that I can't do that, but at the same time, you guys are my priority. This post game is my priority. So until we get everything else resolved, I'm going to be on here talking with you guys, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Once again, this has just been me rambling. I talk a lot anyways, but it, hopefully going for an hour, which I'm about to close up shop here and shut it down for the night, just because I feel like, a lot of people were wanting to watch this Miami-Florida State game. I haven't really had a chance to watch it. Obviously, Florida State's up 3-0 midway through the first quarter. We'll see how that continues to progress. But, Alabama, great victory, 30-14. Ty Simpson overall, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, 74% completion percentage. And, had that interception. The interception was not a good decision. It's probably a good thing that he just went ahead and got that one out the way. Like we can stop talking about, oh, he still hadn't had a turnover this season. Then, it starts to become talking about the no-no, like that type of pressure. So it's probably good that he went ahead and got that out of the way. Also took some untimely sacks, some sacks that he really didn't need to take. But overall, 340 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was surgical in a lot of instances. Again, he has been surgical this entire season. Love what he was able to do. Love what Jam was able to do. A lot of receivers involved. While the score didn't necessarily reflect it, this is the offense. You had a lot of guys. You had the quarterback distributing. You had a lot of guys making plays in the passing game. You had a running back doing great things on the ground. You had defenders making big plays. Justin Jefferson. I hope I didn't call him Jordan Jefferson earlier. I feel like I did. Justin Jefferson. You had Keon Sabb making an interception. You had Xavier Brown, who should have had an interception. Either way, you had a lot of guys on both sides of the football make plays. So, Corey, I appreciate you, man, so much. Let's see. Vince, roll tide to you, my friend. I was very impressed with the second half turnout as well. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're going to be back. I might start doing something on Sundays, especially while, we're trying to get things worked out, because I'm going to go and watch the All-22. So everything that I didn't have available to me as far as seeing the big picture, I'm going to spend my evening tonight as soon as they get that uploaded. I'm going to watch that. Might go ahead and have something going on tomorrow where I can hop on and talk about this stuff in a little bit more detail with you guys. Really hope that you guys enjoyed this, me rambling for an hour straight. I don't think I've ever done that before. I talk a lot. Never talked for an hour straight before. You already feel like my voice is going. It's like you do this one time and your voice is like, yeah, we're going to make you pay for that. But appreciate everybody who has been here. This has been good for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. And we will definitely talk to you guys soon. Appreciate y'all.